There. Can you hear me now when I use the live camera without the music? Tell me if that works. Because this might be a problem with the camera thing. And I'd be kind of sad about that. But let's see if that works. Let's see if you get sound on that. All right. Oh, Donald, I'm sorry, man. I'm going to switch back to my line. To that input and see if that works. Now, can you hear me? Can you hear me on this one? Oh, my streaming quality score is 0. Let's look at analytics. Ooh, guess I can't look at the analytics during the show. Did this help? Can you hear me better now that I've switched over to the camera microphone? That's the important part. And sort of figuring out whether you can hear me or not is becoming kind of difficult. Let's see here. So can you hear me now with the microphone there? I don't know what the delay is. I probably should check my own show and see where we are. So okay, so the sound just came on. So this has something to do with my line in thing. That's kind of a bummer. That means no music and this microphone's off. And that's kind of, I'm going to have to write to them and say that my line in just didn't work at all today. Although I'm not 100% sure because now I've got 4 bars in my little streaming quality score. Good morning, Donald. It's good to see you. Okay, I'm going to try an experiment here. I'm going to switch us back to line in. Tell me whether you hear me or don't hear me. If you don't hear me, just put, yeah, your sound turned off. And we'll know that that was the culprit. If you can still hear me after I switch over, and I'll say I have switched over, then you can then say so and that'll be fine. Let's check that because I'd like to see whether this is a problem with the line in or whether it was a problem with streaming quality. So here we go. I'm switching right now. Might help if the volume was turned up. I think it works now, doesn't it? That's rule number 1. Look at the board. Look at the board. What's the board say? There. Oh, man. Sorry, Don. That was totally me. That was all on me. That wasn't on you at all. You did fine. I don't know. Some mornings are just mornings. This one was very much a morning. Okay, so what I was explaining before I had a moment, as we all do. All of us humans always have morning moments. We have morning moments. This is a moment. Yay! That was totally on me, my friend. That was me. Let's take a look here. What we're dealing with, and as I was explaining before, this sphere, when you do a sphere, it's just like a map on just a normal map on the wall. There's distortion, right? I want the sphere to have the same sized hexagon here as it does right up there, right? So I've got to do what they call a reverse Mercator projection. So we're going to be doing this reverse Mercator thing, which is what we're doing at this point, right? So I've been working all day yesterday. I worked a long time to get this completely straightened out. And what it looks like is this. This is our Mercator projection of that. Now the green ones are a sketch. So they're all kind of rough and sketchy. And what we're going to do now is straighten this up and put these black ones in as a layer over it. And then we're going to clean it up and make a pedal for the Polaris. So this is the Polaris's internal grid pedal. And I'll show you how that works in a second too. But first, we got to do the monotonous thing where we do this and trace all of these out. Right. There we go. I can't believe that we started out today with me not having the volume turned up on my speakers. And so, so this is what we're doing. I want to make sure that these line up with, as much as possible, this underneath here, this line that's going on here. And what we're doing is, these are the, whatever you want to call it, power grid things, I don't know. Alright, so I'm just putting these in, and it'll take some time for us to do this, but that's okay, sometimes it's worth it. Make sure that's connected. But this is an interesting side thing of doing 3D work, is you've got to be able to do your 2D maps in a 3D space. You're visiting the 3D space. You're not really in a 2D space over here. So, what we're doing is making sure that all of this stays on the Mercator lines underneath here. You can see those Mercator lines that I've been working on for most of the day yesterday to get these lines straight so that they'd all line up correctly. And it's been quite the adventure to try to get these things all straightened out. Like I feel like each one of these hexes is 2 of these and a half. And they're going to get wider as we get up to the top of this, obviously. I want to make sure that I have this grid working correctly. Alright, so we go about there. And no matter how weird this is, I have to trust. You know, my eyes keep telling me I'm doing something wrong here, and I have to have faith that I'm doing it right. And that's rough. It's not easy. Donald, I hope that you forgive me for making you restart your phone and everything. That turned out to be totally my fault here on that one. That was rough. Okay, I think this guy goes out like that. Some of this I have to really, have faith that I'm doing this right. And some of this I have to kind of work on trying to kind of get it squared away. Oops. There. She didn't draw it. Oh, here we go. So we're just putting in this grid. I had found some interesting hex grids for Mercator projections, and they didn't do what I needed them to do, which was really needed them to be a solid grid going all the way up and not distorting. And it just wasn't. They had these weird things where they'd have like a pentagon in the middle. So I didn't like the pentagon. Yes, patience is always required for all of this. It's so funny. But like this hexagon's kind of cool looking. I'm just saying. Sometimes it's really kind of cool to see what kind of strange artwork will come from this, right? So we're going to just do this, and we'll be almost done here. just a second. But hesitation from Clip Studio there. Pause. They did not complete that right in time, so we have to work on that. Let's see. So up here, we have the final hexagon that's at this top piece right here. And he's going to be this kind of weird, funky shape, but there's two of them up the top of this bay. So I'm going to make sure I do that. Alright. Let's see, did I miss anybody? No? Looks like I got everybody. Now we have right? It's always good to restart the phone, I agree. I still feel bad for, forcing you to do it. Get rid of that. Let's take a look at this now. We can do this at 100%. That looks nice. That's going to be exactly what I was looking for, which is that at the top here, the only thing is I feel kind of like this line here might be a little weird here. I'm trying to look for strange patterns that might look funny when put onto the dome, because I can already see and a couple of, I don't know, this looks a little strange right there, looks a little strange right there. Might be still just okay, you know what I mean? But, we could probably write it off as just part of this. So I'm going to hit the connect vector line, right? I'm going to go up here and I'm just going to connect everything. All right, that makes us all one vector line right there, and that's all one vector line there. All right, now these are all, I'm just snapping them all together so that they're all one unit, right? I want this all to be just one vector. And the reason we're doing this is so that we can have this all be one thing. That's why we're doing it in vector in the first place. But also because I can scale it. It's very scalable. And once we get all of those little pieces together, there we go. Connect all those guys. Connect everything. Make sure everything's all connected up. There we go. Right? So once we do this, I'm going to be able to bring this down. I need to come up with now these lines here. They're going to expand out too, just like we have with the other pieces here. We're going to have that expand out. So I'm going to go ahead and take this guy and I'm going to duplicate it. This is my raster layer, or not my raster layer, but this is my come on, this is my Mercator layer. So I should be able to just move him over. I'm going to put him right in the center right here, because I need to know what kind of distortion am I going to get out of this, right? So I want him to be right about center line right there. Because we know we're going to get this kind of distortion coming out of the top. So we need to be able to match that grid piece in a lot of ways. And not quite as dramatic. It can be like this, but it's still going to have to be there. So let's go ahead and add ourselves another layer, vector layer on this one. And I'm just gonna take my line, my normal line that I had. I'm just gonna kind of move in like this. With this little bit of a bow like this will now come across straight like that. So, there we go. And I'll worry about that in a minute. Right? I do kind of wonder about Luna's cat as well. I mean, like, how did Luna's cat deal with that? Alright, I'm going to turn off all of the other pieces underneath this. I'm just going to leave this background on here. Now I want to look at our rigging here, right? This is a little over the top on the rig. And do I want to have this be a circle all the way across, which I think I do. So what we're going to do is we're going to turn off the under part of this grid. We're just going to connect everything together. Right. So we got a couple of things we can do. We're going to be able to do the vector. I'm going to cut that one out, right? Because I don't want that. I'm going to cut that one out too. And that will make it just so that this is one piece, just like that, right? This is our branch here, if you will. Now I'm going to take the connect vector line tool. I'm going to connect all of those guys so that they're all just one unit. Okay, cool. I do know that down here at the bottom, I'm going to really want to do everything here at the bottom and stuff like that. This can all be all of these we can do straight because they're going to be round circular pieces. So down here at the bottom at the midline of this, we actually can't see the midline of the design, but this is the rig that we have. That's the one. I'll turn this down a little so I can see it here. I kind of want to see what's going on. That's a good idea. That'd be difficult. Not impossible, just difficult. I think what I will do is I will build a center pod that comes down in the center of the dome and then drops below the middle, and then I'll put the Unity symbol on that. Because putting that, we haven't gotten to a cylinder yet, but we should wrap a cylinder. When we do wrap a cylinder, we'll figure that one out. But that's a good idea. I like that idea. Putting the Unity symbol in the center of the dome drop would be great. I think that'd be fine. Okay, so we've got kind of this guy going up here, going like that. The other thing I think we should do is give a little bit of space up here for that. So we're going to give some space up here for that dome mid piece. So I'm going to do this guy right here. Now, since he's not connected right here and he's not connected right there, what's going to happen is, first of all, I'm going to flip this so that we can use both sides. And I'm going to do that in just a second here. Now that I've got both sides of this figured out, I'm going to take out U. I'm going to leave that for just right now. So, we're going to take this guy and I'm going to duplicate him. And then we're going to transform. I'm going to flip him horizontal. There we go. And you see how this is one of those nice things about Clip Studio Paint that I love so much. It all just went nice right there. I'm going to take this guy now, and what we can do is actually just merge these two layers together. These three layers. I'll merge these together. Turn these off. And if we hit Control Shift. Yes, I get it. How about that? There we go. Music goes down. I'm going to hit Control Shift E right here on this, and that's going to merge all these layers. And that'll allow me to go here and so rasterize the layer. Rasterize the layer. Oh my God. Maybe you can turn the music down. There we go. How about that? That should be better. Okay. We'll just get rid of those. So, one of the things we need to do is pull these back. So I'm going to go ahead and go in here, and I'm just going to take these control points. Like this guy doesn't even need to be there anymore because he's on the other side. Right? Oh, it works this way. Wow. We're just going to clean this up right here. It goes to all intersections. That's kind of cool. There we go. Look at that. Ooh. There we go. Gotta make sure I'm inside this grid. Otherwise, this will be an unpleasant moment. Okay. There. Is the music still okay? I can't tell because the output split at my computer. So, what's coming out of my speakers here, because I can listen to music just myself here, but what's coming out of my speakers is a direct line from my computer. The other split part of this so the music's fixed though. It's like I said, it's hard for me to tell. I can't tell. I am noticing that there is a symbol now to tell me what my broadcast strength is. That's kind of cool. Okay, now we have what looks like a pretty solid wall unit here. And what I'm going to do with this is do what we were doing before, where we're going to take the adjustment and we're going to adjust the line width. But this time we're going to do it with intention. Up here is going to end up being thinner lines because everything's going to get compressed. So it's important for me to make sure that these guys are wider as we get up here, right? Because we want it to look thicker as we get to the top of the dome, right? So that's what we're going to do here. We're just going to make these just a tad bit thicker so that at the top of the dome, things get... Well, I appreciate that. Things get better as they head up to the top of this dome. Right? So we're heading up here, and it's just getting... The points get better, and actually it kind of looks kind of cool. Just like, well, actually, I like it. And then we'll do the reverse coming down here. Right? We're getting down here. We're just getting... These are smaller dome pieces. So what we've got is it gets thicker as it heads up. That's the idea. All right. This also gives it drama. I mean, it looks a little bit more handmade, and it looks a little bit more like I intended to do this, like it was drawn by a pen. You know, I've been talking about that for a while, how I like the ability to adjust bits of it like this, right? And just kind of make it look like it was done by pen, which, you know, has just a little bit of varying width on it, you know, and why maybe this guy's a little thicker over here, yada, yada, yada. Now, at some point, we're going to invert this. Hey, that's always good. I'm glad to hear that you're not passing out. That sounds horrible. Right. And this gives it just a little bit of variation to it. And stuff like that. Makes it look like we got a pin that kind of glopped a little there. And stuff like that. So it's working really well. Well, I'm glad you are staying with me, my friend. I am glad you are staying with me. Alright, once I've kind of gotten to a point where I'm happy with this, we're going to make it all one unit. I'm going to do that right here. Okay? Now I can't do the adjustments to the line anymore. It's turned it away from being a vector. So, that's okay. There are reasons that we want to do this. We really want this and this to be filled. Right? Because we need those to be black lines that are just struts that go up to the center of the dome. But it's not closing the gap as much as I want it to, so we're going to try that and see if that closes the gap. No, it doesn't. Bring the color margin up quite a bit. Better. One more. There we go. So, you can be full of TMI, my friend. That's fine. So we're going to go through here, and a couple of things we're going to do real quick. I'm just going to artistically curve this off, right? Because I want this to be just a little bit more rounded like that. Ooh. Too close there. I'm just curving this down so that it looks natural. All right, we're going to do the same thing over here. Curve that around. There we go, just like that. There. We're just trimming this down, kind of curving it, and stuff like that. The other thing I'm going to do is just add widgets to it, right? We want to add things that make it look like it is part of a space station, right? We want this to... We're going to add little widgets to it like this. Like these little connectors, right? We're just putting things on all of these so that it gives it just some visual interest. At some point, I'm going to invert this. And when I do, I'm going to want just a little bit of like machinery that we can add to this once we've inverted it. There we go. So now it just has some little widgets that make it look kind of cool. Right? Those are sensor buoys or pod pieces, or I don't know. We can make up all kinds of stuff to tell us what that is. Now, once we bring in this is the midline, so I know I've got anything above this we can use, so because this is going to be the midline itself. So we can do little things down here. Holding the structure together, or something. These are just pieces that work to hold this whole structure together. And we don't know what any of these things do, really. They just are part of the machinery. Right? A space cat crawling up the beam. Do. Anything could happen. There. And whatever we do here, we want to make sure it's replicatable. Because at this point, we only have one pedal. So every one of these pedals is going to look exactly like this. So I've got to make sure that whatever it is, it's replicatable. Like, it's not going to look weird to have 50 of them all the way around. I guess really not 50, but there are 5. And so you want to make sure that the pedals fit. Right? Power couplings, there's solar units, things. There's structure, that widgets that go out there. So now we're going to take this guy, and we're going to duplicate him. Right? I'm going to move this guy right over here, just like this. There. Now we have 2 panels in. And we're going to duplicate this layer. I'll put this guy. They have to overlap exactly. Bork. I'll duplicate this layer. I'll put this guy over here too. I'm going to end up with a middle layer. I don't know why I did it this way. Oh, I think I did it this way. Because really what I should do is just take this bottom layer, take this top layer, make him go all the way over to one side like this. And then take this guy and move him over. There we go. The original design of this, for some reason, I had a half of one at the edge, and I'm not sure why I did this way. Oop, undo. Oh, well, redo. There we go. Ooh. Undo. It's this one right here. There we go. And now we can take this guy and duplicate him. And this will fit right here. And I am not surprised to find out that they don't fit exactly well. And so I'm going to, instead of having them overlap, I'm going to try to do this a different way. Have them abut to each other. I said butt. Nope, that's not you. There we go. I'm using the arrow keys to lock them into place. Make sure that their positioning is correct. And then this guy, yep, it's not going to be symmetrical. But it'll be close. So we'll move down one, move him over there. Move down one more. Move him over just a little. And that looks good. I feel like we're pretty close to the bottom here. And turn this off, and I'm going to merge visible with all of these guys. Okay, so we've got the top of the dome pretty much mapped out. So let's do that. Okay, so the next step to this one's kind of complicated, so I'm going to duplicate this layer because I don't want to lose it, right? Turn that off. And then I'm going to say layer. Let's see if I can't do the trick that I do in Photoshop, but I'm not sure how to do it here. So we're going to, we're looking here for invert. Rotate, invert canvas. That's flipping it. That won't help us like we want it to. So I can do this easily in Photoshop, but this is a little weird for me here. So we're going to take this layer. I'm going to see if I can't invert it. Because I want to convert it. Harder than it looks. I mean, I could always just do this and then fill, but that would take forever. It's clearly not filling the whole rig. It's just filling part of it. So, you know what we can do? I could sit here and poke around forever, or I could just look it up. Hit Studio Paint, invert colors. There we go. Under the edit, under tonal correction, edit, tonal correction. And then it is, which one? Reverse gradient. Well, there you go. It's always about learning the new software. All right. We're going to take this guy. Now we're going to, I see a white layer and I want to paint it black. There we go. There. Perfect. Now we can talk about all the pieces, parts that we want to put in here to make this work. So black is going to represent space. That's fine. But down here, it's going to represent there's nothing there. Also okay. I'm not worried about that. But up here, I do worry about this area right up here. Oh, come on, don't be mean. We're going to do that there. That's so that we can put that center pod in the middle there, and it won't look like it's weird. Okay, now that we've done all of this, I'm going to save as, because I really want to save this as something else so that I don't accidentally screw it up. And we're going to call this the Clip Studio format. We're going to call this 3, because we're down to the 3rd version of this now. Okay. And the screen will black out. Well, it thinks really hard about what it's doing. Poor little computer. Okay. So here we're going to do this. We're going to now say save as. I'm going to save it as a JPEG because that's the only thing that's red in there. And we're going to go to, what are we at now? Hexdome 15. Oh my. I think this one might be the right one. Okay. Now we're going to go over to DAZ Studio and select this sphere. We're going to close the wrong menu. And then we're going to browse and bring up 15. Look at that. Ah, look at that. Wow. Got a nice circle on the top. I'm not ecstatic about the wiggles right through here, but I think that's an error in the the way that this is set up. It's an error in this sphere, and I don't think that's a. The only thing is, all of the lines for this hex line seem to be going up along these edges, which makes it look warped, but it isn't. And that's kind of a bummer. But you know what? It'll be fine. So let's take the parameter in this sphere and scale it up. Now we're inside the sphere, right? So bring that sphere down until the floor finally passes. We've got a long way to go until the dome hits out and maxes out. So we're going down quite a ways. It's a 5500 sphere, so we need to be at minus. To start, right? Because we can see the top of the sphere up there. And it's slowly coming down. I mean, as we get there, it's coming down on them. The dome is coming into play here. And we'll hit about the halfway point and about there. Still a little high. We've got it almost in place now. There we go. Now, go right level with that. There we go. Now when we look at our little bistro that Raph can't get into, the bistro that won't allow Raph in, that's what we're after, right? And you can see the grid dome behind it. And when we render it, it's going to look a little... It's got to optimize all the images. And that's what we've got. Look at that. And that is probably what the inside of the Polaris really looks like. It really is kind of like Mousetrap the game, isn't it? But this is what it looks like when you're inside. This is what it looks like when doves cry. Here we are walking up to this bistro. Like that. There we go, just like that. So, welcome to the Polaris, guys. It's actually starting to act like a starship. A little bit, just a little bit, but it's getting there, right? So, okay. A couple of other things I want to do real quick. We want to kind of get that center piece in, but we want to show some more of the magic that we can do. Which means, oh boy, we get to load Photoshop. Because it's about time for us to do Photoshop. Bring Photoshop into this picture. But a lot of this is on exactly how I use 3D models to make it look like a drawing in the background. Because it looks just like a city drawing with the behind the whole thing behind it. Now, one of the things that I can do when I set up the Polaris rig, and I will, is I'll probably make these green, like a green screen. And then that way I can add whatever is going on behind them, right? You want to be able to see, if nothing else, there should be petals out there. You should be able to see the petals of the dome open, and you should be able to see those petals out there. They should be reflecting light into the city. If nothing else, that would be that. You might also see stars. So there'd be stars out there somewhere. So this is kind of the start of this whole thing, but there's a couple of other things you want to do. We're going to load good old Photoshop. Let's get Photoshop loaded. It's going to take it a minute. I think Photoshop's also going to ask for credentials because Photoshop's CC credential thing is crashed still. So I haven't been able to fix that. And so, unfortunately, I'm forced to type in my credentials every hour or two. And I'm not sure why, but it's kind of aggravating. So, we're waiting for, yeah, right? I mean, there'd be stars out there. There'd be other little ships floating around and doing things. You're going to have traffic out there, which we can paint on the dome if we really wanted to, but that would make the dome have to be painted all the time. That wouldn't be cool. And the truth of the matter is, I don't usually want to do I want to do as little modeling as possible in here because natural, the native shapes that are the native primitives that are in DAZ run far smoother than anything we could use that I can make. When I make things in Blender or something like that, we have a couple of problems with it that generally kind of go with it. But we are going to have the outside of the Polaris, and we're going to show that obviously in the comic. So I'm going to need those petals anyway. I'm going to need a 5-petal structure for the Polaris. So I know that that's going to have to come up anyway. So I might as well make the petal. And so what I'll do is you can take this and make it a transparency map. So I'm going to show you while we're waiting for Photoshop to load. If I take our sphere here and I make this the opacity map, right? I'm going to make that, what do we call it, Hexadome 15. There we go, just like that. Then we've made the opacity clear, right? And now you can see through this, but only where there's black, right? It makes the ground transparent too. It's kind of aggravating, but it's not, the end of the world. Okay. having to log in and password. There we go. So now that I've made this transparent, one of the things I can do is, right, I mean, there's going to be all kinds of little critters in here, but the best way to do this is to cheat. I mean, you know, it's not necessary to do these in a straight up way. So here's what we're going to do. You didn't just die, did you? No, you're loading over here. Okay. I'd be really aggravated if you just died out. That'd be aggravating. So we're going to do a new boy. I am asking a lot of my computer here, aren't I? Okay. This is kind of big, so I don't know if I necessarily want this custom. So let's just go ahead and, I don't know, let's do 1600 by 1200. Okay. And this is how you cheat. Watch me cheat. Watch me cheat. Right. Okay, we're going to get a brush. Get this guy here. These are some of my cheat brushes, right? Now, I actually drew these guys before, but I want to illustrate the cheating. I want to illustrate how we cheat first. So, we're just going to do a line of people. But they're apparently going to do them in white. Let me try that again. This time we're going to do a line of people in black. Okay? Just a line of people. These are folks that are just walking down the street. Okay? I'm going to take the paper here. And what I'm going to do is we have to kind of select the people. There's nothing I can do about this. Except select it properly. Okay. And on the paper here, we're going to take this selection. Let's say, new raster layer. Good heavens. It scared the heck out of me. I don't know if he knows that I'm broadcasting. So, okay. So when we deselect this, we've got two layers here. We've got, no, we did it wrong, didn't we? No, we didn't. We didn't do it wrong. We've got a transparency layer, and then we've got a character layer. Okay. So we'll save as, and I'm going to say JPEG, and we're going to call this test people JPEG. Okay. And then we're going to turn this off, and we're going to save this as, still working on it. Say JPEG, and we're going to say test people. Okay. When you go into here, now what I can do is create a new primitive. And the primitives are over here. And I'm going to create just a plane. Okay. And we're going to make it not 1 meter, but we're going to make it like, I don't know, 10 meters. More than that. Let's do 8 meters. Okay. We're going to end up with this plane here. The first thing I'm going to do is rotate it like a wall. Okay. So I'm going to bring up this plane right here. like, what are you doing? Cutting through all the people. You're cutting through the bistro. Not the bistro. Yes, the bistro. Okay. I'm easily entertained by the bistro. Apparently, I am totally entertained by this. We're going to rotate this specific plane until it's flat to us. Now the magic begins. Take the plane, its diffuse color, we're going to browse, we're going to load the people, right? The people. Here are the people, right? We've loaded the people. But now we're going to take, and we're going to go down to this opacity strength. We're going to browse. I'm going to take the test people X. There we go. Magic begins. I'm noticing that it's taller than it needs to be. That's not the one we want. It's this one. Nope. There we go. Okay. And now we have people walking in front of the bistro. Okay. And this just looks like people walking in front of the bistro. Right? Magic. Where's the beefstro? The beefstro. And of course, just like all the other things, we need to make sure that we set the surface's ambient color to white. When we're doing comic stuff, this guy needs to be just in pure white. Right? And now this plane, I can do anything with this plane that works in the same manner. Right? I can, as we were doing before with this, I can then we're actually going to, so there we go. I actually want to, let's see what that looks like there. Let's see. Now we have people walking in front of the, the bistro. I was, and there was the, that lady lived well into like the 90s or something. I seem to remember her passing away not that long ago. I mean, maybe she even lived into the 2000s. Seems like she was, I seem to remember seeing it on Facebook, so it had to have been after 2006. But seeing that, I was like, wow, she lived longer than I expected her to. I mean, I don't mean to be mean or anything, but I mean, she was well into her 80s at the 80s commercial, The Where's the Beef commercials. Those were wonderful. Okay. Now we're starting to see life here, right? We've got people wandering around on the streets. We have what looks like city structure behind it. And all of this is easily rendered. And once built, I don't have to worry about building it again, right? I can actually do the same thing with this guy. Take the same plane and hit duplicate node. And once here's the thing we need to really do though. We need to add a camera. So we'll create a camera. There we go. Main. Alright, so we'll take the camera. And we'll move it around to the beefstro. Well, that's what we've now established that this place is called the beefstro. Not to be confused with the beef bro. That's a different place completely. Now, one of the things is with this trick, this camera must these panels must be aligned with the camera. Otherwise, the jig is up, right? You can tell. There's a little bit of leeway, and that, by the way, causes some really weird stuff in your head. But not a lot. right? So we're going to take the Where's the Beef Stew? It's a Wendy's. I'm going to take this panel back here, and we're going to do the same thing, except I'm going to move using the perspective view. Now I can do that. I'm going to take this guy here. I'm going to move him back. So way, way, way back out of there, out into space here. I'm going to take the parameters. I'm going to scale him up so he's huge. We're going to take him, let's just push him all the way past the limit of, these are giants. And you didn't know I was doing a comic about Attack on Titan, but here I am doing Attack on Titan, right? I think I'm funny. I do. I think I'm really funny. And actually, this may not be the wisest move. What might be better is to take this plane and bring it back in like this, where they're now Titans, and scale it back down again, and then make trees on this. Right, we'll put trees in here. We won't do it right now, because right now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my Attack on Titan guys. I'll take the sphere and duplicate it. Right, duplicate the node. Now we've got sphere 2, which is way down here. We're going to make it just a little bit larger. Not much. Just a little bit larger. The Attack of the 5-foot woman. Rawr. Okay, this back sphere is just a little larger. Okay, so we're going to then take this guy and go to shaping, that surfaces, sphere. And here's how we're going to do this. We're going to first we're going to say none, so the sphere is back to black. Then we're going to browse. I'll bring this over here because my head is getting tired turning like that. I actually have in shared resources, and this isn't the world's best because we're going to have to fix it, but in shared resources, we have star fields, huge star fields, which I can load onto these. I'm going to use my comic star field because I loves it, and it looks cool. So we're going to load that in. There we go. I'm going to make this actually work, we'd have to do some work on it. But for right now, this works, right? We go back to camera view, main, and now we're going to have to go back here and fix these guys. But this is how you trick the camera. A little bit of trick work here. I'm going to actually create a new primitive plane because I'm having a little bit of a problem with. We're going to make this 500 meters in size. I'm going to accept it and then put it on the ground here. And I'm going to go into the surface. I'm having a hard time seeing the ground here. So this is the ground plane, right? And now I've got enough little primitives that it's probably better for me to call this ground. Ground. I wonder if it'll be friends with me. Right? And we'll take this ground plane and then we'll make it an ambient color of white. Now we've got, because see, I didn't see, because of this, I didn't see that my guys were actually like not on the ground. So now they are. And they can walk on the ground. And we've got stars. Now let's fix some trees, right? I'm going to do the same thing we just did here. I say new, and this time, since I learned my little lesson, let's make this 1600 by 1600, and then that way the planes don't have to be different. Okay, and then file, open. The question, this is easier to do from over here anyway. The question really is, when I'm dealing with, the question is whether I can find those trees or not. I know I have trees. No, trees. That was my cat making a commentary. Yes, no, trees. I'm looking for trees. You're not helping me find trees. That's you. Still not helping me find trees. I know, you want me to find trees. Somewhere. Got some pine trees. Those are cool. No, pine trees. But I thought I had better trees. Flowers. Those would be cool. What are you doing? Are you scratching the wall? That's very strange. Trees. Okay, good. I found some trees. Okay. Do the same thing here. I'm going to load some trees, right? And these are a little bit more difficult, a little more complicated. So I'm going to have to, if you've ever wondered, I don't know why I'm doing it this way. I have a pen. I have a pen. Okay. These were in Japan. They have these beautiful transfer things, which are designed for exactly what we're doing. You're not doing anything. Okay, never mind. My cat's being goofy and strange, and I have no earthly idea what her problem is. Okay, so we're going to rotate this around so that it's straight up, and we're going to shrink it down to about here. Hit OK. We'll get another tree while we're at it over here. And this whole episode's about cheating. Isn't that funny? Okay. Here we go. I think this one's a very popular tree. I think lots of people like this tree. Yeah. Copy. Paste. Do the same thing this time. They're rotated, but that's all right. This is going to be a little harder when we get to masking, because it's not gonna mask the way we want it to. So what I'm going to do is, first things first, let's put this sort of down on the ground so that they're there, and then we can work on some of this. For we'll go in here a little space, because these guys aren't quite going all the way to the ground. I have to put them on the ground like that. I have to do that so that they look like they belong here on the ground. Otherwise, you're just not going to have what you're looking for here, right? So I'm just finishing off the artwork here. There we go, just like that. So we're just making it so that the tree looks like it's got, sort of a... Get rid of... Whoa, hi, don't do that. We will just ink on the other side there, won't we? Yes, we will. And we'll just ink that. Okay, so we just make sure that that's sealed up. And then we'll go over here and do the same thing to this guy. Right? Just needs to be just extended down a little right here. This way we know we have a tree. Now, The thing about this particular setup and rig, and the way that we're doing it this way, is this is going to end up being a kind of a strange mask. So what I'm going to do actually here is I'm going to add a mask in black. I'm just going to black this out. And I'm going to bring this back like this, right? And then this time I'm just going to go in with the eraser and just erase a rough mask like this. Ooh, you know what I shouldn't do? I'm actually going to go in with the pen. And I'm just going to ink in like this. And it's okay if I go over a little, like outside this mask. It's totally okay. Except at the bottom. It's not okay at the bottom. Right? So I'm going to have to come back and trim that. But for right now, it's okay if there's a little bit of a gap right here. It'll look good. It'll make it look like it was intentional. And with comics, one of the things we will do, and then I'll just come out here and be floofy. Right? With comics, we give a gap between line work. So when I build these 3D assets, I want a gap in this so that we can have, I'm going to leave some open gaps like this whenever we get in here. So it just opens up a little. You always want to, with comics, we always want like a gap so that lines don't touch, so we don't have what you hear me always say, converging tangents. You know how much I hate converging tangents. So you don't want that. So we're kind of trying to avoid converging tangents, and the way we do that is by adding this white gap around the outside of everything, and then it won't be converging. We won't get a converging tangent out there. And I'm just describing the outside here. That's all we're doing. Just trying to make sure that every dot has a little world that it can go into. All these dots just end up in their own little universe over here. And it won't matter, you won't see this outline very clearly except when it interacts with other characters or things in the background. So it won't be that big of a deal if it's not exactly perfect. That's not important. Just go around the outline right here. Just kind of move around the outside of this tree. Just like this. Just like this. Heading around. Coming down the bottom. We're just going to... There. Then we can just fill this with white, right? And then it's all white. Make sure you don't have any kind of rings around this inside piece right here. Okay? I'm going to do the same thing with the other tree real quick. Just come through here. Give a little bit of line to either side of the trunk, like this. This guy's a little easier to deal with, but he's still going to be no issue, right? And just come right here. Remember that anything that we don't actually make white is going to be somehow wiped out by the mask. So if it doesn't end up white on this outside layer, just like it would be with those people, oh yeah, that would be fun. That's a good point, Donald. I like the idea of bonsai trees sort of growing out of an extension of the extension of these other trees, some kind of weird genetic modification. I'm going to take this tree, and we're just going to keep doing this kind of thing real quick. Go around this outside. This tree has a lot of foliage that's obviously intended to be seen through. So this one's a little harder to do because I've got holes in him. But I can just pretty much circle all of these areas that belong to the tree. And we'll just do this real quick here. We'll just come along here. It's really just this outside edge, right? Most of this, I think, actually probably could be just filled with white, and that would be okay. We're not going to know the difference, really. And it's not going to be something that people are going to scrutinize. And once this is in, it's not going to matter much. The only thing I really want to do is do this correctly so that if I do want to place this, say, in front of the bistro, there's ways you can see through the foliage to see the bistro behind it, which helps a whole lot. Right? So we're going to kind of go along here. We're doing stuff up here and kind of going through like this. This is what we're doing. We're just kind of doing this. We're just describing sort of the border here. Anything that's not covered in white won't show. So this leaf won't show unless I do something like that. That won't show. This won't show. So we're going to have to make sure that we're very solid about it, covering every leaf. You don't have to be perfect around it, because the more you've got a halo around it, the better it serves. So we'll go through, tap that like that, and just clean up some of this. Any place that looks like it's excessive. Right, and through there and there. Just catch some of these extra leaves that have gotten out nowhere. Make sure everything's covered. Right? So now we've got these two trees. Right, and their little... There we go. There we go. And these two trees now have beautiful little arcs around the outside. So I'll bring that back up to 100%, right? And while we're here, let's just check, because this is very obvious in here. I'm just going to go back over it real quick and make sure that I've got this inner line cleaned up. Don't want to have to actually come back in here and mess with these guys later. So the more we do now, the better it is. Right? And so kind of come in here and do this same thing right here. Because these guys will, this black line will become a hole in the tree. Just a thin hole, but it'll be a hole. And let's just make sure that most of it's gone. It doesn't have to be perfect. You don't want an obvious line. Right, little holes that actually kind of help the effect of the tree. So any kind of little holes, that's fine. That looks kind of like what we're supposed to be doing, right? So turn this off. Say save as. Yep. Not in textures. Go back out to my Bellatrix Rising and 3D resources. Not here. Buildings and... no, right here's fine. JPEG. We're going to say trees 1.jpg. Right, makes sense. Then we're going to turn on its mask and we'll say save as. And we'll call this one trees 1x. Just name everything that's a transparency X for exparency. Okay, now we've got this guy right back here. He's the one I'm going to actually put these trees on. So I'm going to go to the surfaces menu and I'm going to close the surfaces. No, I'm not going to close the surfaces menu. We're going to take the diffuse color. We're going to browse, right? Oh man, we're going to click on trees 1. That's what it is, right? And you can already see, since its transparency was these people, you can see the trees through the transparency. It's kind of funny. We're going to browse. This guy's already rigged, so might as well do it this way. There we go. And there's our trees, right? And they just came through just fine. Now we'll reposition this guy, right? So that so that the trees are actually on the plane here. And now we've got some trees in our city, right? The people are walking in front of the trees. We hit render on this. Ooh, looks like my trees need to be fixed a little, so we'll work on that. Hang on. First things first. The plane needs to be ambient color, white, so we can make sure that it's as bright as possible. Oh yeah, and every tree will be placed properly. But now we can go. There you go. Look at that. Why is the ground plane not showing? That's weird. This ground plane's not rendering for reasons that are beyond me. No, opacity should be 100%. Ambient should be 100%. Diffuse. Maybe I'll make it green, just to make it so that I can see that it's... the ambient color will have to be green too. Just so we can have some differentiation. Huh. It's glitching. That's funny. It shouldn't be glitching, but it is. That's weird. Okay. And this is how we cheat. These guys are kind of huge, aren't they, for the bistro? A little big for our bistro. Parameters. So we'll scale them down just a little bit more. They've got to be able to fit in the door, people. You've got to be able to fit in the door. That's the size. Perspective. Let's get in there a little and move them out. There we go. Main. Ooh, another button through the ground. Don't go through the ground. That would be bad. So there we go. Look at that. And the best part about this is raise the camera and it looks still pretty good, pretty solid. You could be looking down at this little scene right here from maybe the second floor of the next building over, and it still looks solid, right? But we still don't. It's not rendering the green thing underneath it. It's not a real problem. I'm not that worried because I'm not going to keep that ground plane. So primarily that ground plane doesn't get kept, and I get that, and that's okay. So it's not going to be a major issue. But it still makes me go, no, wait a minute. So here are the key points that I want people to look at because this is important. Here's what I was saying before. When we do comics, we give a gap between the lines that we draw for like trees and stuff and the lines that we draw for the buildings behind it. And we give a natural gap so that you can identify it so that it doesn't get too loud. And too many lines that converge on one another and you can't see or it doesn't read properly, right? And like the same thing up here, we give a gap through all of these little floofy things. And I probably want to go back into this this mask and just, bink, 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 give it a little bit of a pokiness to its mask, and it'll fit very well. My comics are always black and white, so I'm actually not going to have this blue panorama behind them. It might be a dark gray or something, but it's never going to be a blue panorama, and it might actually be just black space. And that would be fine too. But now what we've got, though, with this is very much an identifiable, like, little scene, right? And it didn't take much effort. And as time goes on, I'm just going to keep building the assets in this town. And by the way, the scale of these buildings, I'm aware the scale of the buildings are different than the scale of our bistro. The buildings there are supposed to be downtown, and our people don't live downtown. So these buildings are somewhere along the line. They're going to end up living quite a ways away. To make it work properly, probably what I will do is scale them up so that they really are 50 or 60 meters tall for the smaller buildings, and like 300 meters tall for the bigger building. And I will do that, and then that will be a thing. And I'm going to put in some details. Like, I can already see way back there to the right of the tree, I can already see the little adapter piece, or whatever it is that we wanted to call that, way back there on the grid. So I'm going to just go back there at some point in time on the hex grid that makes up the sky, and I'm going to just line it in, and I'm going to do some basic little things. You're never going to be close enough to that dome in the story. We're never going to be close enough to the dome that we're going to be able to read anything off of those, and you don't want that anyway. Nobody would put that much detail that far back. So that's kind of where we are. Most trees are generic, but a few outside key buildings or sites might have a tree with knots or marks that are identifiable. I agree. Something, JM loves BP, and you'll be like, who are those people? I don't know. Elephant rhino. I don't know. But this is how you generate a background scene, quick, easy, and fast, without having to mess with anything. The next step, now that we've got assets building in here and things like that, the next step is to actually be tactical about this. We've got the trees in here a little, and they're coming along just fine, and stuff. But you're right, we're going to have to come up with one tree per panel, and then I'm going to do the cross tree thing. You take a panel, and then you cross them into each other, so that no matter which direction you're looking at, they'll still be trees. It'll still look fine. The worst thing that'll happen is you'll have kind of a narrow tree sometimes and a wider tree others. But since I turned everything for ambient all the way up, you can't actually tell the difference, right? You won't be able to physically see that. And let's give some illustration to that here, shall we? I'm going to move these trees here. First things first, kind of want to move them in front of the building so that it gives the building sort of a nice little awning, right? So there it covers the building a little, right? It gives it kind of a cool awning. But they're also too low, I'm noticing. There we go. That's what we want right there. And they live on top of that. The other thing is, we need to put a halo around the people, because they don't actually have a halo either, right? When we do that is we go in here, file, open. Where is it going to put it? Oh, there it is. Good. And we're going to take the people X right here, open that. 6 years later, we'll open that. And I'll show you the quick and dirty way to give them a halo. Boy, I feel like I might be running my computer a little out of space, so I have to see how that works. There we go. There we go. Now we're getting the spinny thing. Quick and dirty way to do this, select all from the outside like this. Control-Shift-I inverts my selection. And I'm going to take, and I'm just going to put the stroke. Center. Let's say 10. There you go. Now I have a halo around them, right? And diesel. I probably we would want to ultimately go back around and clean up their feet a little because, like I said, the feet must never have a halo. The bottom of things must never have a halo because they do need to interact directly with the ground, otherwise they look like they're floating. So we just put that quick little halo in and we say save. There we go, just like that. Saving. And then we'll close this. And the next time we bring this up, the people still don't have a halo because DAS won't reload. That's fine. We'll save this anyway. We need to save this anyway, right? So what we'll do is I'm going to go ahead and close this. It used to have closed, but it doesn't anymore, does it? I wonder if I can just update everything with the update metadata. Let's see if that works. See you tomorrow, Donald. Have a good day. I hope you feel better. There we go. Now we'll hit render and see if it did that with the halos around them. That's a bummer. Okay, we'll have to fix it. And that means to close. I don't want to exit. I've got too many programs open at this point in time. I feel like if I exit, I'm going to end up kind of regretting that. So it's kind of that. Hey, Luna, how you doing? So look what we're doing. We're cheating. This is awesome. This is me cheating. We built today, we spent the whole day building structures in here and to make this a background for my comics. This is how I do my comics in 3D, right? We've got these little dudes in the front. We've got some trees. We've got our bistro that Raphael can't get into. He's not allowed. Then we've got buildings in the background here. And then we've got way back there, we have a dome. The dome that's going to be on the Polaris. The air dome that locks everything in. And then behind that, we have stars. And the ground needs to be fixed, but that's all right. You're so busy. But if you look, it makes a pretty convincing backdrop, all by its lonesome self, right? I'm actually going to do we've been trying to figure out what's wrong with the background plane, and I'm not sure why we're having a problem with it, but we'll do that. And I'm actually going to change its surface color to white and its ambient color to white because I really do want to exemplify. Oh yeah, but I love this function of cheating. So we're actually going to browse real quick and I'm going to load one of my larger star maps in. This is my huge star map. It's not designed for a dome, so we're going to end up some distorted and weird stars. But bear with me. It's black and white, and I really want it to be black and white. So we're going to do that. There we go. And then we're going to do the same thing with the stars here. We're going to take this huge star field and make it part of the ambient color. And then this, because my comics are all black and white, I have to make sure that I do this so that it looks like it's black and white. There we go. And I don't know why the ground keeps vanishing. That's a very strange effect. I'm going to actually try to put a map on this. Any map would work. Right? And if we do that, it's still a map. Right? Maybe I don't want that map specifically, though. Let's try. I feel like I've got to put Hexodome 15 on there. Well, yeah, and you're absolutely right. It doesn't look like cheating, and just because I'm doing the work up front. But I love this this technique. Yeah, see, it just didn't. It's transparent. I don't know why it's transparent. It's so weird. We'll figure that out. I mean, worst comes to worst, I'll just make the dome and half white for the ground. But at some point in time, we are going to have to add stuff in. You know what? I'm just going to add a box down here instead of having a ground plane. I'm going to add a box. Create new primitive. Add a box. And make it 500 meters. And I would walk 500 meters. Don't think I wouldn't. Not sphere. We don't need the sphere to move. The box. We have to let it go all the way down. This is kind of fun. We did this before, and it was kind of entertaining. Oh, you know what else I can do? I can do better. Take the scale and make it 0.01. There we go. It makes it a whole lot easier. Then translate that down. Now, let's hope that it doesn't decide to make the box weird and transparent. So we'll see whether it makes the box transparent. Hopefully that solved our transparency problem. It did not. Oh well. Star carpet. That's what it is. It's star carpet. You're right, Luna. It does make me worry, though. Anything where it's having a problem reading this ground plane is an issue. That's going to have to be fixed. I don't know what my problem is. I'm going to shrink it down a little, maybe. Maybe that'll help us some. Our star carpet. There we go. There. Sort of fixed it. Fixed it enough. And there we have effectively the, folks walking in front of our bistro, and we've kind of solved our little problem and stuff. So this will be a background. And what I would do is I just put the main character talking to another main character in front of it, and you've got an instant background that will always be different than any other background. So anytime I do another background, it'll be completely different. And that makes this really nifty, That's a significantly awesome part about this particular design, is that I can make it so that the characters just I can have a background for the characters at any time. If I also, though, rig the scene so that they're accurate sizes, and I'm having a particularly difficult day and I can't, get my perspective right and stuff like that, I can stick the maquettes in here because they are the right size, pose them correctly, and then trace over them on those days whenever I need to do that as well. So that would give me another jump on this. I think my child is broken. That's a weird one. He's making very strange noises. So I mean, this works really well for a generic background. We've got people wandering around in the city. I actually have drawn little people for this at various distances, so they get more and more ambiguous as they get further away, so that you can just have various levels of these. And I did that earlier in an earlier show, but they're not rigged for 3D yet, so I can't really use them. They'll be rigged for 3D in a couple of days, and they'll be ready to go. But yeah, this is the way you cheat in this, is by doing this very thing and kind of setting it up. So there we go. Now we've got the ability to add backgrounds, which is wonderful. I also think, though, that 500 meters by 500 meters might be too big of a box for it to render. And that might be part of what it's doing down here, is kind of going, I don't know what to do with these boxes that you keep adding. So we'll have to, I think what I will probably do is come up with 50 meter by 50 meter cubes of town, and then just start blocking them together as I need them. I'll have, way back in the background, I don't need those, and they don't need to worry about it, and they'll just exist. But up close where we are, it will only be a 50 meter by 50 meter block, which has a road and sidewalks and things like that. So that's going to work just fine. So this is how we do our super awesome, top secret background rendering that nobody knows how I had managed to pull it off. Because I used to do this with my Tamerlane comics, and people were like, how do you make such perfect backgrounds? I'm like, I don't. They're not perfect backgrounds. They're just what they are. And you're like, oh, we love your backgrounds. And the truth of the matter is, I really hate fighting with perspective. And so I just found a way to not have to fight with perspective. It takes me forever to fight with perspective. It's the one of my art skills that is not very strong. So I can see that I'm out of perspective, and then I have to fight with it until it wiggles into perspective. So there's that. We'll get it figured out. So, okay. Well, that's pretty much where we are for today. That's our show. I have done my bit there, and you can kind of still see it down there at the bottom, but I'm going to actually turn it off. I'm sorry you didn't get here earlier, Luna. It was kind of fun to do the dome. You should have seen the dome. We had to kind of do a Mercator projection on the texture map, because otherwise the dome didn't look right. It ended up with all the hexagons getting smaller at the top, when we really want it to look like a bunch of hexagons of the same size being put all along the outside of the dome. So there should only be one row of hexagons at the top of about 10 hexagons, and then by the time you get to the bottom, you get like 100 hexagons going all the way around the outside edge. And so that took some effort, because texture mapping is all about squishing the top of that like a Mercator projection. So I had to do all the hexes in this Mercator projection, where it got to like the top, where it had this huge one hex thing. It was very, very large. It took some effort. It took a lot of effort, but that's okay. And you can kind of see how cool it looks when we look up at the top of the dome. Man. There we go. Jeez Louise. But yeah, I mean, I got pretty good to the top of the dome there. That's kind of cool. Here, I'll show you. There we go. And almost perfect up here. They're not quite perfect. Boy, I worked hard on it, though. But they don't... You can see that there's pinching going on with the model. The 3D model didn't quite catch it like it's supposed to. But what I can always do is, if I ever have to render this shot, which does look cool, you have to admit, if I ever have to render this shot, I'm just going to go back in and just fix that, fix those lines. So they'll all work. Since most of this problem, perspective is real. Most of this problem, most of the time, we're going to be looking right around the edges out here. Because most people don't look up. So we don't really need to look up unless I'm specifically saying, oh no, look at the top of the dome, at which time you want to have a shot of the top of the dome. I can't imagine why I would ever do that, but I'm sure there will be a time and a reason. So that's all good. I appreciate it when you're here. It's just fine. It's just fine, bud. It's good to have you. But it is time for lunch for me. So I'm heading off for lunch, and I will see you guys tomorrow. And all is wonderful with our little town here. So tomorrow we'll start laying it in correctly with the right size of everything, and I will make sure all of the domes are the right size and the city is the right size. And I hope I don't have to do any forced perspective. I'm hoping Daz can just accept that it's the right size. We'll have to see. But we'll be doing that tomorrow. So you can join me there, and that will be awesome. Thank you very much, and I'm glad to have had you here. And everybody should have a good day. Have a good day. Just have a good day. Goodbye.